Hello and welcome to the BTEC Level 2 Sport, Bridging the Gap. So, what we're going to focus on with regards to this kind of task that we're giving you for Bridging the Gap is Unit 7, Anatomy and Physiology. The reason we're concentrating on this one is because there's a few kind of key terms that we need to understand and be aware of, and some of the terminology used can be quite confusing, so the sooner we understand it, the better. So Unit 7 is all about the cardiovascular, respiratory, skeletal and muscular system and how this helps provide movements in sport. So how we're able to do a serve in tennis, how we're able to do a smash in volleyball, how we're able to run and so on. So what muscles are used, how do they contract, what joints are used to help us move, and then how are we using kind of like breathing techniques and our heart to help us with this movement, etc. So this is an externally assessed examination. Okay, so it's worth 50 marks and it lasts for an hour. You can have longer if you have any special requirements that you'll be aware of when you come into college. So as I've said, this gets marked externally in a test situation, so you're going to have to learn this information. So this is one of the harder units on the course because it is in test format. So what I want us to get on, you've clicked on a link that's on the Word document provided for you. We're going to look at the muscular system, specifically the different types of muscles we need to know. What I want you to do first of all is, I want you on a separate piece of paper just to write down the muscles, okay, from this screencast. Once you have done that, I want you to complete the diagram that is actually on the Word document you have with no notes, okay? So just try and do it from memory. Try your hardest to do it from memory. You may only get one, you may get none. Don't worry about that. We need to test you. We need you to try and start thinking now without your notes. Once you've done that and you're struggling, you can get your notes on the Word document that you wrote down, just with the muscles on, and see if just recognising or seeing any of the muscles will help you be able to label the diagram. After that, if you're still struggling, you can use this to help you, where I will actually go through what the muscles are. So I want you to try and start now using that brain, trying to really start thinking and testing yourself. So first of all, the first muscle is called the trapezius, and that is this muscle here, your traps. You may have heard it called before. So this is called your trapezius muscle. In the exam there may be a picture just like this, and with the arrow it may say what muscle is this here, and you have to know this, the trapezius. The next one are your deltoids. So your deltoids are just here over your shoulder. This next one are our biceps. So a very common gym movement is a bicep curl, and that'll get your biceps, this muscle here, larger, or increase endurance if that's what you're working on. Down on the front of the leg here, this is known as the quadriceps muscle. Then we have the pectorals. Again, you may have heard of them called the pecs, but you need to know them as the pectorals. We have the abdominals, which is like your six-pack area here. And then finally, on the front of the body, we have here the obliques, okay? So they are the muscles that we need to know that are on the front of ourselves, of a human body. We also need to know what's on the back as well. So if you come here to the back, trapezius again. So the trapezius, not only can you see it from the front, you can see it from the back, and it's this muscle here. Now trapezius actually comes all the way down here. That big kind of blanket triangular, almost triangular shape here, that's your trapezius. Here, opposite to the biceps, on the back of our arms, is the triceps. It's called tri because it's actually three muscles. And conversely, biceps on the other picture, that's because there's two muscles. This kind of kite-shaped muscle here, that's our latissimus dorsi, this big one here. You may know it as your lats. Again, we need to learn latissimus dorsi. Our hamstrings are at the bottom. Again, just a piece of information, our hamstrings are actually three separate muscles, but as a group we call them the hamstrings. Now I'm going to skip past that one and do this one first. Okay, so we've got our gastrocnemius here, which is this nice big one, also known as our calf, but again we need to know as our gastrocnemius. Now this muscle helps us do a movement called plantar flexion, which is basically pointing our toes, so it helps us with running a lot. Now underneath the gastrocnemius muscle, which is here, we've got this muscle, soleus. So soleus is underneath the gastrocnemius, so you can't really see it. There's a little muscle here, but if we took away the gastrocnemius, you'd then see the soleus underneath the gastrocnemius. So here we've got the gluteus maximus, and then finally the erector spinae. Now the erector spinae, actually see these little dots here, that's our spine, our vertebral column. On either side of that, you can't actually see it, but on either side of the spine we have a muscle going all the way up our back, right into our head here. Now this is called the erector spinae muscle. So they are the muscles. Okay, so what I want you to do is first of all write them down on a plain piece of paper. Then I want you to try and fill in your diagram on your Word document without any help. Then use your notes to help you. If you still struggle, you can then use this. Okay, so another section that we need to know is the skeletal system. I'm going to show you now two pictures, and one is classed as our axial skeleton and the other is our appendicular. I'm not going to speak much about it until the next slide. So imagine an actual skeleton. Our skeleton is actually split up into two sections, the axial and appendicular, as you can see. So the skeleton as a whole split up into two sections, the axial skeleton, which is basically the middle, and then the appendicular, which is basically all the limbs on the outside. So the axial skeleton, the bones that make up the axial skeleton is the skull, the sternum, the vertebral column, and the rib cage. So I'm going to show you this now. So on your Word document, you should have a little box that asks you to fill out the bones that are in the axial skeleton. Put these in there, that'd be great. So the skull, also known as the cranium, okay. Then you've got the sternum, which is this bone here, also known as the breastbone, but we need to know it's a sternum. Then we've got the vertebral column, it's our spine, and then finally the rib cage. So that is our axial skeleton. So if I go back, this is it. So it's our cranium, sternum, vertebral column, spine, spinal cord, and finally our ribs. Then the appendicular skeleton is anything outside of that. So whatever hasn't been mentioned there, that's our appendicular. So the upper limbs, the lower limbs, the shoulder and the pelvis. And here are some examples. So obviously it's not the ribs because we've been told that the ribs is the axial. So appendicular is all these bones here, which we're going to learn in a minute. These bones here, this bone, that's part of the vertebral column, so that is the axial skeleton there. And then the scapula as well and clavicle. So that is the appendicular skeleton. Similar to the muscular system, what I want you to do is write down only the bones on a separate piece of paper, complete a diagram on the worksheet with no notes, use notes to help you. Finally, you can use your screencast if you're struggling. So these are all the bones we need to know for anatomy and physiology unit. They're down here. Okay, so these are what we need to know. First of all, we've got the cranium, which is the skull. Okay, however, similar to the muscles, we need to know it as the cranium. Then we have this one here. We're going clockwise. So we have the clavicle. Okay, so that's called the clavicle. Now the sternum is split up into three different sections that we need to know. So the one section is called the manubrium. Then we've got the body. Then we've got the xiphoid process. So if we go through it, the manubrium is this top bit here, almost like a fish tail or a whale's tail here. That is known as the manubrium. Then in the middle, the body, which makes sense. Okay, so the body's in the middle. And then finally, This little kind of pin shape here, that is known as our xiphoid process. Okay, so we've got our manubrium, our body, and our xiphoid, which is quite peculiarly spelt there for you, but there we have it. So then this next bone here, or set we could say, are our ribs. Then this one here, hopefully you've got this from the axial skeleton, this is known as our vertebral column. Another name for our hip, pelvis. This long bone here in our thigh is known as our femur. This little circular one, which you may know as our kneecap, is our patella. You've got two bones in the lower leg, lower limbs. This one here, the bigger one, this holds all of our weight. So when we're standing, this bone here actually holds our weight, and this is called the tibia. Now the other bone to the right or to the left of this of the tibia, that holds no weight. That's there to attach muscles to, and that's known as your fibula. If you come over this side now, so this one here is our ulna. So we've got two in our forearm, our ulna and our radius. I always just remember is radius is the one that's by the thumb if you're in this position. So there's the thumb. It's the radius is the one that's by the thumb. So the other one must be the ulna. What we'll learn in lesson is by the radius you've got the radial pulse, and that's how you kind of understand where the radius is. This next bone here is called your humerus. Your funny bone, when you bang your elbow and it goes all tingly, funny bone, humerus. Then finally, scapula. So they're the bones that you need to know for Unit 7, Anatomy and Physiology. So hopefully you've got those down. So the vertebral column itself, you need to be aware that the vertebral column is set up into it's actually set up into 5 different sections, and I'll go through the 5th one in a minute. We've got this first section here is known as our cervical spine. Then this one here, this all the way here is called thoracic. Then you've got lumbar. Then you've got our sacral, is this weird looking bone here at the bottom. And then finally, this last little bit here that's hanging on the edge, which you may know as our tailbone, that is known as our coccyx. So, cervical spine has 7 vertebrae. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these little 7, those there, that's our cervical spine. We have 7 cervical spine. Our thoracic spine, as you can see, they get bigger. So they're actually quite big here, and we've got 12 of these. So we've got 12 thoracic, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, our lumbar spine, these are the vertebrae that hold our weight. And as you can see, if you actually look at this whole picture now, if you look at these ones here, they're much bigger and stronger. It's because they're holding our weight, they shock absorb, and they're carrying us around all day, aren't they? So we've got 5 lumbar spine, which is here. Now our sacrum, which is this, what looks like one bone, okay? So this is our sacrum. Now this is 5 bones all fused together. So that's actually 5 bones there, but they're all just connected and fused together. So cervical spine 7, thoracic 12, lumbar 5, sacral 5. Now our coccyx here at the end, there are 4 bones there fused together. So 7, 12, 5, 5, 4, 7, 12, 5, 5, 4. That's how we remember the number of vertebral column. Last little bit for you, and also last little part that's on your worksheet is the rib cage. You've had quite a bit to remember here, but it's really worthwhile actually learning. As you can actually see, the sternum, you've got the manubrium, the body, and then finally this xiphoid process at the end. Okay, so what is the job of the ribs? The main purpose of the rib cage is to protect the heart and the lungs. So the lungs and the heart are within this cage of bones that are protecting it from getting damaged, both of those from getting damaged. All of the ribs are attached to the vertebrae at the back. Only some are connected to the sternum at the front though. So if you look, here's a sternum. Here's a rib. That's connected to the sternum, and it's also connected to the vertebrae at the back. Sternum, vertebrae at the back. This second one here, sternum at the front, vertebrae at the back. Sternum at the front, sternum at the front, sternum at the front, sternum at the front here, sternum at the front, sternum at the front, vertebrae at the back. If you look, 1, 2, 3, these three here are all connected to this rib cartilage here, and then finally we've got 2 ribs at the bottom known as floating ribs that aren't actually attached to anything at the front, they're only attached to the vertebrae at the back. So true ribs are 7, we've got 7 pairs, okay, and they're attached to both the vertebrae and the sternum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so our 7 true ribs. Then we've got false ribs, which are 3 ribs attached to the vertebrae at the back and to the ribs above the front. So 1, 2, 3 here. 1, 2, 3. All these 3 actually connect to this rib at the front here to go to the sternum. So the 7 that go to the sternum are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're known as true ribs. Then we have 3 false ribs. 1, 2, 3. Attached to the vertebrae at the back and to the rib above. And then finally, the last ones we have are floating ribs, and there are 2, 2 pairs, 1, 2, attached to the vertebrae at the back only. They do not attach anywhere at the front. So that is our rib cage. So that's all the information that I wanted to get down with regards to the bridging task for level 2 sport, specifically unit 7. As I've said, this isn't easy, so a lot of students find this quite complicated. So if you found this difficult, do not worry. We're going to be doing a lot more in lessons, obviously. If you felt that it's okay, fantastic. Hopefully you'll be able to get a good result and a good grade when it comes to BTEC Level 2 sport. So I hope that helps, and I'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye.